Hello, Contrarians listeners. Here we are, reaching you from the United States of Dystopia, formerly known as the United States of America, a land where masked men have been empowered by the government to harass, kidnap, and exile immigrants, regardless of their immigration status. A land where the people in power encourage hatred and cruelty toward minorities. A land where a normal person, a person with empathy, a person with basic human decency, can feel overwhelmed by all the bullshit the current administration keeps throwing at us.
So that's why we're here. That's what we're doing with these special episodes. We're here to tell you, no, you're not crazy. It really is that bad. And also to tell you, you're not alone. We're here with you. And maybe, hopefully, make you feel a little better by talking about good movies that are relevant to this nightmare we're living through.
So welcome to Fresh Immigrants, Rotten Fascists, a new Contrarian series. Today, we're going to be talking about Wag the Dog. Welcome to the 9th installment of Fresh Immigrants, Rotten Fascists, FIRF. We made it through our first set of 8 episodes. We're coming back after a very nerve-wracking sort of anniversary recording with our friend Jason from Binge Movies. We're coming back with somewhat of a lighter movie, Alex. This is a comedy, a dark comedy, I guess, from a long time ago, but it could have been made yesterday. Talking, of course, about Wag the Dog, directed by Barry Levinson, making his Contrarians debut, I'm pretty sure. Written by David Mamet and someone else who wrote the original Roadhouse. Did you see that, Alex?
I didn't catch that. Hillary Hinkin.
Yes, Hillary Hinkin. If you look at it, she doesn't have a whole lot of credits. And at first I saw that she was credited on the new Roadhouse, but I guess that was just like because she inspired the new Roadhouse based on her original work. So she is the writer behind the first Roadhouse. So that's kind of wild to go from there to Wag the Dog. But
based on a 1993 novel called American Hero by Larry Beinhart. It was a satirical conspiracy novel that speculated Operation Desert Storm had been scripted and choreographed as a ploy to get George H.W. Bush reelected to a second term, taking cues from Margaret Thatcher's similar war in the Falkland Islands.
This sort of stuff happens all the time, I think.
Oh, boy. What a time to watch this movie, man.
We'll get into it. There's a lot to get into it. Just to set the stage, though, as we record this, it is the evening of April the 2nd. And Alex, we were just talking before we started recording about the balancing act that it is to protect your mental health by not consuming a whole lot of news, but just consuming enough so that you're aware of what's happening in the world. I gotta tell you, it's been somewhat of a good week to be on our side of the political spectrum. Today, specifically, I was at work when I saw that it broke down that Donald Trump had fired Pam Bondi, and it filled me with joy. And I know that whoever replaces her is just going to be another piece of shit, but it kind of made me feel like, oh, look, a bad person getting what's coming to them. And
well, it's more than that. It's someone who disgraced themselves just to kneel at the altar of this fucking wannabe tyrant, and it shows there is no loyalty. He will flip you as quickly as he would flip a, I don't know, hamburger. That motherfucker doesn't know how to cook. What am I talking about?
I don't know. Whatever he flips, it's probably gross and you shouldn't touch it. But that's
correct.
The analogy. I mean, if you're not convinced, ask Kristi Noem, who also got fired, I don't know, a week, 2 weeks ago. And again, I kind of fist bumped. She got given some bullshit position as Shield of the Americas, or they made up a position just so it's not that embarrassing. But basically, Kristi Noem is out along with her alleged lover, Corey Lewandowski, who's somebody who I have despised even before he had power. I remember seeing him at some sort of press conference or something where he was just shooting his mouth and being hateful. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? And then you can imagine my horror as I saw him climb the ranks in the Trump administration. And now I'm just so happy that he's being outed. He just kicked him out. So anyway, what I'm saying is like, yes, everything is bad, but every now and then there's like some little things that are good, and cherish them, appreciate them. It made me feel like there was a little bit of a serendipity, synchronicity. We've had a rough go. The country's having a rough go. The world is having a rough go, but here comes a movie that is making points about politics and the way that the world is run, but making them in an entertaining way with a great cast. And I happened to be watching it on a day where something good happened, And I know also that it's not. I don't know what it takes these days for justice to actually happen, but I'll celebrate even the appearance of justice at this point. I'll take it. But anyway, Wag the Dog, Alex. What did you know about this movie?
Man, almost nothing, I guess. Like I would have to say, it was a movie. The name I knew, and I knew it was like this political satire, but I had no idea like the cast that's involved here, and also how funny it is, and the like a lot of these movies, how just timeless and relevant it is. I guess I never knew the idiom either of the tail wagging the dog. Why does the dog wag its tail? Because a dog is smarter than its tail. If the tail were smarter, it would wag the dog. That's how the movie starts.
Yeah. I spent countless hours when I was younger trying to figure out what that meant. There was no internet. So I was just like, I guess I have to figure it out on my own. And I guess it's not really that complicated, but I was just trying to figure out if there was more to it than that. But it's just what it says, Whoever does the wagging is the real brains of the operation. And here, I guess, Robert DeNiro is doing the wagging, and everybody else just kind of watches it happen. I knew about this movie before it came out. I remember reading that it was like back in the day, right? Before either it had already premiered or it was on the build up to premiere, and everybody was talking about, oh my God, De Niro is back. I didn't even know that De Niro had gone away, but everybody was saying that this was his next Oscar nomination for sure. And of course it wasn't.
Yeah.
Somebody else got the Oscar nom. But they were saying that it was a De Niro comeback, it was a Barry Levinson comeback, and that it was going to basically sweep at the Oscars. That was not the case. Again, got 2 nominations that we'll talk about momentarily. But I remember being really excited because by then I was already a big Robert De Niro fan, so I was just excited to see what would happen. And then the idea seemed fun. Like I remember reading that it was just about behind the scenes manipulations, a fake war. I'm like, man, this sounds fascinating. It also at the time sounded like science fiction. I don't think I got to watch it in theaters. Either it didn't come out in Peru, or I just missed it. It was like a small window. And when I finally watched it, I was like, this was really good. Maybe I wasn't blown away. I don't think I was. Definitely not the same experience as watching it now as an adult. And as we recorded this, we're in the middle of what I'm assuming is a very real war with Iran. But you could infer that it's...
We haven't gotten the video of Kirsten Dunst running with a cat yet.
Not yet. And if we did, everybody would be like, AI.
Yeah.
The magic is gone. You can't even manipulate the public in an artsy way. But anyway, I remember liking it a lot. And I probably have seen it once since then. I probably showing it to someone. And in my mind, it was a good, smart movie. And watching it today, it remained the same. Probably made me laugh even harder. So I knew what I was into. What has changed since the first and maybe last time I watched it, and it's something that probably we should get out of the way now, is that writer David Mamet, who at some point was a Democrat, and then from my quick research, around 2008, decided that he wasn't a Democrat, he was more of a conservative, but he didn't want to label himself a Republican. And then sometime around the first Trump presidency, decided that he loved Donald Trump, and then publicly said that he thought that maybe the election that Biden won was stolen.
We've just been the victim of a 4-year-long conspiracy, which was a coup. The government was taken over. The election was stolen. The government was taken over. And the facts are fairly clear.
Now he's just full MAGA. And it is something that's really sad to read because, it always sucks when somebody that's really good at something turns out to be kind of a shitty person. And at this point, I'm sorry, if you praise Donald Trump as a president, you are a shitty person. So there's no gray area there. So that is a big bummer, Alex. This is a great movie written by somebody who was not MAGA when he wrote it, but is MAGA now. So have fun reconciling that. Can you do it? I think I can. I can praise this movie and say that it's great while also acknowledging that, unfortunately, the guy that wrote it is now, I guess, has broken from reality. Because I'm not saying that you can't be a decent person and be a conservative, but I don't think you can be a decent person and support Donald Trump as recently as of his reelection. So suck it, Mammoth. I'm going to praise your movie, but I don't praise you. Do you feel, Alex, before we even get into the nitty-gritty of the plot, do you feel that this movie leans one way or the other, though, politically?
No, because it is it ever established what party the president, the incumbent, is on?
I don't think so.
I mean, he leans real hard into the God stuff, so we would assume that. Well, I mean, every president. No, because he actually has the part in that where he talks. The president's giving the speech, and by spoiler alert, we never know who the president actually is in this. That's kind of one of the funny things about it. But he leans. He says the line of God in whichever form that takes for you, which that's something no modern conservative would say.
That's true.
But we also have the Craig T. Nelson character, who's the would-be. He's running. He's the opposition is the word I was looking for there. And we learn throughout this, he's just playing the same underhanded tactics as the other side. So I don't think this movie takes a side per se. I think it's just a tale of political scumbaggery and the, there's part of it's obviously a bit more fantastical, but this is something Veep would do, of like the constant spin, getting ahead of the news cycles. How do we do this? How do we make this look good? How do we put this story out so it takes away from that story? And that's basically the gist of this here, is just the filth and carniness of the American political system. And, to be fair, the global political system on full display.
I wonder how many people watch this and just think it's fiction, as far as like, oh, that was a fun yarn, but that's not how it works.
Yeah.
This came out, I guess the last thing before we get into the plot, this came out a month before the Monica Lewinsky / Bill Clinton scandal broke.
My God.
And
this was a Christmas release.
Yes.
Christmas 97.
In my mind, because I was still living in Peru when, all this happened, but in my mind, it was the Clinton scandal first, then this movie came out. And so some people could have seen it as a response, but no, this came out first. So I'm guessing that some people would have seen it as prophetic because the Clinton scandal happened and then he bombed like a couple months later. He started bombing somewhere, and then he was impeached, and then there was some other military action that happened. So people were very easily and very justifiably, I guess, drawing parallels.
Yeah.
and Mamet and was it Jenkins? Hillary, what was her last name?
Henkin.
Hillary Henkin, they were just kind of, well, we just wrote it. You guys made it happen. But I guess for anybody who, for some reason, hasn't watched Wag the Dog, but they're still listening, they want to know what it's about. Alex, do you have a synopsis?
There's a crisis in the White House.
What's the crisis?
And the president's top advisors have been called together.
Oh, jeez.
The sexual misconduct occurred inside the Oval Office. With the election only days away, how much will this scandal affect the outcome?
2 weeks prior to re-election, the United States president lands in the middle of a sex scandal in need of outside help to quell the situation. Presidential advisor Winfield Ames enlists the expertise of spin doctor Conrad Breen, who decides, a distraction is the best course of action. Breen approaches Hollywood producer Stanley Motz to help him fabricate a war in Albania, and once underway, the duo has the media entirely focused on the war. Barry Levinson at the helm. I know we mentioned that already, but I forgot to bring up Diner. Love me some Diner.
Do you think of it as Mickey Rourke's finest hour before The Wrestler?
Oh, I don't know about that. Mickey Rourke was good in a lot of shit, so we're not here to talk about the Ram, though.
I also think Diner. I was going through Levinson's filmography, and I was like, minor spoiler in case you haven't figured out yet, but I love this movie. But going down the Levinson filmography, I'm like, man, most of the things that he's done that I've watched, I didn't really care for. Even as recently as The Altonites, I think that's what it's called, the movie he did with Robert De Niro last year, I think, where De Niro plays two separate, like he plays two gangsters. It's like dual role for him, and it was just kind of boring. But I've seen Diner, and I like Diner. And then, there's a bunch of Levinson movies I haven't really cared for. And then there's a bunch of Levinson movies I haven't seen. So, maybe I just been unlucky with his stuff. Have you seen anything else from him besides Diner?
I was looking over this earlier. Rain Man. He directed Sphere.
Yes. Terrible movie.
Yeah. I don't know if I've ever actually seen Good Morning Vietnam.
I've seen it. That one's good.
Yeah. Disclosure. That's another just classic 90s smut. That one just missed the cut for the...
Oh, shit. Alex, he directed Man of the Year. He's been at the Contrarians before.
In a political realm, no less.
Yeah.
God, what a movie that was.
I didn't care for Bandits. Sleepers. Man, that movie is not good.
That's the one with Jason Patric, right?
Yeah, Kevin Bacon.
I've never seen it, but yeah.
It's rough. When I was a kid, I remember liking Young Sherlock Holmes. I don't know if it holds up as an adult, but that was, I didn't know it was a Levinson piece of work. And, you mentioned Rain Man. I think I own Rain Man, and I still haven't seen it.
He did plenty with De Niro, that's for sure.
Yeah. And, Rowan Williams, too. I've seen What Just Happened. That was all right, I guess. Anyway, this is easily... for my money, the Barry Levinson movie, because of what we were just saying, it's just so funny and so smart. And now it's so relevant. I think a lot of it has to do with the casting. Do you have like powerhouses and Anne Heche?
I was going to ask if you liked Anne Heche in this one.
Dude, I think she's great. Actually, let's get Anne
Heche
pretty
out
funny.
Of the way. Yeah.
Yeah, I think she's, and we just had her in Drunk You. We started the year with that Denzel vehicle, and she's there playing the stereotypical bad girl. And we had a few laughs there, but this is what happens when you give her smart material. She rises to the challenge. And I mean, she doesn't look that dissimilar. Like, it's not just that, it's not the looks, because I think that she looks almost exactly the way she looked in Drunk You. But somehow, just the behavior and the comic timing, I found her to be great here.
The part when at the scene of they have the plane crash and she just starts like just putting all these random cuss words together and like cussing out Dustin Hoffman. It's really funny.
Yes. Yeah.
Motherfucker. Like she's really like laying it on hard.
There's a scene where I think it's Hoffman does it first. They're like in their war room, their little war room with all their people that are working for them. And Hoffman gives a sort of an inspiring speech. And then De Niro gives his. And everybody's like, all right, let's get to work. And then Heche starts giving her speech. And De Niro has to cut her off. It's like, okay, we need to move on. But she gets her close and it's like, people, we're making it happen. It's like, all right, enough. No, she's great. And she is back and forth with De Niro and Hoffman, two people that are have such a much higher profile than she does in Hollywood, and she's there, like, she doesn't miss a beat. So in that sense, you could argue that she's the most impressive out of the cast, just because I guess she's the one that could surprise you, because you just didn't see it coming. You expect it from De Niro, you expect it from Hoffman, you don't expect it from Anne Heche, not because she's known as a bad actress, but just because she's not the superstar in that trio. But she's there. She fits it perfectly. I mean, they could have cast a bigger name, I guess, but they went with Anne Heche, and I think she's great.
What am I going to do? Explain that to me. I have a 3-year-old daughter, eventually headed for orthodontia. What am I going to do with her?
Oh, God, now that the CIA knows, I'm going to lose everything. My career, my reputation. What am I going to do?
Breathe it through.
On the other hand, you have to give the upper hand to one of the two titans. Do you give it to De Niro or do you give it to Hoffman? Hoffman, who ended up getting the Oscar nomination.
De Niro's awesome in this movie, but like Dustin Hoffman is so fucking funny, dude. Like I think like De Niro, don't get me wrong, has his moments, but I like laughed out loud at like multiple things that Dustin Hoffman did in this. Also, by the way, I knew his secretary or his assistant, Grace, looked familiar. I was looking at their filmography, trying to figure out. This is Susie Plaxon, who I immediately recognized as in her credits, she's the flight attendant in Red Eye. But in scrolling down further, she plays Joanne Glotz in Everyone Loves Raymond. She was Robert's first wife. And she was like a stripper and like before they met. And that's kind of like the joke. And you find out like, I can't remember how you find out, but you find out her stripper name was Cinnamon. And I just remember fucking Peter Boyle just goes, Cinnamon Glotz? Like asking about her name. But yeah, she's like a character in that show. But anyway, De Niro kind of zaddy in this, man. I'm not gonna lie. He's looking pretty good.
So when you sent me that text about Freddy Krueger as played by Robert DeNiro,
dude, but did you see? Do you know exactly what I was referring to?
Yes, yeah.
It's this shot of him sitting, and he's got a fucking like bowler cap on, and he's wearing a red sweater, and it's like he's illuminated by the lightning and during the storm, and I'm like, and he's just there, Someone needs to Photoshop the glove on him, and him just being like, "What's a good?" Welcome to prime time, something like that. But they're both great. Their chemistry is wonderful. But yeah, I don't know, because that's the things that are so funny are because they like set up one another. The part where they're in the limo together and they're talking about this Schumann thing that's going to happen and what he represents, and Hoffman goes, "He brought peace," and De Niro goes, "But there wasn't even a war." And then Dustin Hoffman just goes, "All the more impressive." I think my favorite Dustin Hoffman moment, though, it's at the very beginning when we first get introduced to him, and he's like explaining how he's going to make this all work, and it's about improvising, and it's about changing on the fly and this shit. And then he starts telling this story about the greatest show on earth, and was it Cecil DeMille, the director of that? And he's telling this, and then someone walks in and goes, "The president's on the line," and he goes, "1 minute, please."
Yeah, he's that running joke of him always trying to tell stories and not finishing them because people lose interest or they get distracted. I was like, I felt so bad for him, but it was just so good, and it perfectly sets up the ending. I mean, that the idea that in the end, for all the talk or whatever, he just wants the credit. He wants recognition. And that's perfect.
He literally even says, because De Niro's like, "Well, now you're playing with your life." And he goes, "Fuck my life." Like, he's like, that doesn't matter.
Well, I asked you if you had a preference, you thought that one came out on top, because apparently when it came to negotiations, Hoffman came out on top. His first bill. Did that surprise you?
All right. Well, let us see where our fellows were at this point. While I'm pulling this up, I do want to call out the commercials, or not the commercial, but the shoot where they do the little blip that they're going to use for the propaganda, the war propaganda, littered with appearances from people who would go on to higher successes. Not only Kirsten Dunst, but did you see Dave Koechner in there? Old Todd Packard?
Okay, I didn't. I was like, that guy looks familiar, but he looks so young that I was like, who is it? It's not this the Zodiac killer, but that was what I kept coming back to, and I was like, no, who is it? Who is it? And yeah, you're right. It's
Arthur Lee Ashe, and then who else? Harlan Williams was in there. He was
with the dog.
Yeah, and so a lot going on, and then just small roles. John Michael Higgins has a role in this, and man, that guy's been 45 years old for 35 years. I tell you what. Okay, so let's see. We got the Hoff and we got De Niro. Let's get these filmographies pulled up here. I'm thinking before I even get there that De Niro might have been coming off Copland for this. which is a pretty big role. What was Dustin Hoffman doing in the mid-90s?
I couldn't tell you.
All right. Well, we're almost there.
Fear?
Oof. Brother. All right. So Dustin Hoffman rolled into this bad boy. We had, all right, here's the 90s. Dick Tracy, Billy Bathgate, Hook, Hero, Outbreak, Sleepers, American Buffalo, and Mad City is what he wrote into on this.
Okay, I've seen Mad City. That's his team up with Travolta, but I remember that movie bombed.
And then
Sleepers, I mean, I don't know. Definitely the Levinson connection is there, but
Bobby De Niro, we go Stanley and Iris, Goodfellas, Awakenings, Guilty by Suspicion, Backdraft. He was in Backdraft? I don't remember that. Cape Fear, Mistress, Night in the City, which we vowed a long time ago to do that movie because it's a remake of that 50s movie I really like.
yes.
Anyway, Mad Dog and Glory, The Boy's Life, A Bronx Tale, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, 101 Nights, Casino, Heat, The Fan, Sleepers, Marvin's Room, Copland, Jackie Brown, Wag the Dog. Okay, why is he not fucking top billed here? What a year. I don't know why I didn't think of Jackie Brown, but of course, man. Man, complete sidebar. I just rewatched several Tarantino films. I think Jackie Brown is it. I know I've gone back and forth in the history of our podcast, but
Yeah.
that movie fucking rules, dude. Well, then Dustin Hoffman just had a better agent.
I guess that's what it boils down to.
I also have a hard time believing De Niro would really give a shit. Because it's not like
That's
he's
probably
fucking second billed to, all due respect to DJ Qualls, but it's not like he's second billed to him. It's Dustin Hoffman up there.
Well, and they're both in Sleepers, so maybe in Sleepers, De Niro gets top billing over Hoffman, and now they trade it off.
Oh man,
I'm curious what the situation is in the Meet the Fockers. If De Niro gets the upper hand.
wow. Didn't even. That's literally. I watched this movie earlier today. I've been thinking about this movie since. That's the first time that connection came through.
An ambassadorship. That's my payoff.
Well, you tell me what you want.
Hell, I just do it for the fun of it. For a story to tell.
Oh, no, you couldn't tell anybody.
Oh, hey, listen, I'm just kidding.
No, I mean, you couldn't tell anybody.
No, I know. It's just a figure of speech. No. It's just it's a pageant.
It's a pageant.
Elsewhere, though, besides our heavy hitters here are Tyson and our Ali, I guess, for the sake of this movie. And Heche, we mentioned. Dennis Leary doing the Dennis Leary thing, but dressed like he's in the Matrix.
He is so much better here than in something like Demolition Man, because he doesn't go on a rant. Ever.
Yes, he doesn't do the fucking Bill Hicks thing. He's very Dennis Learyan, but he does have like this moment that it's the part where he's like bashful, which is like so anti the Dennis Leary persona, where he has that sketch of like the memorial and Hoffman's like, show him. He goes, well, it's not finished. I don't want to show him.
I thought you were going to say when he's asking De Niro, are we locked in Albania? Because I really could do more with Italy. And as they're walking out of the mansion, De Niro is like, no, the president's about to say that we're at war with Albania. And Leary goes like, we're declaring war in Albania? And De Niro's like, no, we're going to war in Albania. We're already at war in Albania. And then he gets in the car, and then Leary keeps walking, and he's like, we're going to war with Albania. He just talks to himself as he's walking out. It was like, he just sounds so surprised by the whole thing, or so, just taken aback, but he just going with the flow. And I was like, yeah, that felt to me very unlike the usual cocky, know-it-all Dennis Leary.
Andrea Martin's on the team of like the people that spin everything up. And then Willie Nelson is there as like the guy who writes the music for these campaigns and shit. And it's pretty good because it's like, it's hard to not see Willie Nelson and just immediately think like stunt casting, or like,
right.
But he's so, what are you gonna do with Willie Nelson? You're gonna have him smoke weed and like, make some pops about that. What do I think of? I think of Beer Fest with his cameo in that. And then obviously that Dukes of Hazzard movie that Jay Chandrasekhar directed. He's in that too. And that's like the gist of his jokes is that he smokes weed. But here, like, he's basically this wind-up toy that they just tell like what to do in terms of music, and then like he just starts writing it like immediately, with the exception of the part where he thinks they're wrapped. He's like, well, I was gonna go get drunk, is what he says. But yeah, dude, like this movie, too many things that are kind of would be upsetting just because of the reality to make fun of. But they have about the war, and they're recording like this "We Are the World" song in the studio, and they're all sitting around, and that's when Craig T. Nelson says he's brought peace, and this is how they deduced the CIA cut a deal, like a better deal with him. And like they're still recording it, and like everyone's just sitting there in shambles, and De Niro goes, this is inappropriate, and he stands up and he's like, stop it.
Yeah, I love it because there's a moment of silence, and then suddenly the big orchestral thing kicks in again.
Yeah,
we are the American. It's amazing.
A lot of the soundtrack of this movie is the fictional music that's made for the events that happen in this movie, which I thought was just wonderful.
Yeah. Before we move on to like how that reflects reality or may not reflect reality, two more call outs, I think. One, William H. Macy shows up for one scene.
A really good scene too.
Yeah, as a badass. the rare William H. Macy as a badass scene. Did you find yourself a little confused by what De Niro was saying? Because I remember that was like the first time I watched the movie, I'm like, I know he won that argument, but I don't know how he won it. And then subsequent watches, I'm like, okay, I think I get what he's saying. But did it like trip you up? Because De Niro just basically overpowers him just by talking.
Yeah, basically, he explains that you're doing your job correctly, but you're not looking at the big picture, like type thing.
Yeah, I think like that was the bigger point. It was like, okay, you're CIA and you're saying that your job is protecting this country, and if you think about it, our war is protecting this country, whether it's real or not.
Yeah.
And if you need to tell yourself that it's a drill so you can justify it, then that's what it is. But the point is, we are not doing anything un-American.
Yeah, because isn't it something like, because the American people will never believe a threat within is as big of a threat as like foreign nuclear war or something like that. It's something along those lines.
Yeah. It is. It's a pretty. De Niro delivers it so well too that I think that even if you don't completely follow it, like happened to me the first time, you're like, all right, well, he is so convincing. He's so confident. I'm like, I get it. But it was a nice little, because when I watched it the first time, I already knew who William H. Macy was. So I was like, hey, it's that guy from Fargo and Sports Night. And then De Niro like kicks his ass, and then he's out of the movie.
And then he went and made a deal with Coach.
Yes, yeah. Mr. Incredible took him to the dark side.
Hold on, Mr. Stone.
Mr. Stone, yeah. I was wondering if you knew his name, like his first name, his Christian name.
Oh, fuck. I do. It's on the tip of my tongue. Maybe it'll come to me while we're recording this. But yeah, we obviously have one more big player to discuss here. And
is it JB?
JB.
Oh, it's not. I was going to shout out the I don't know, 30 seconds that Jim Belushi gets.
Oh, dude, that's fucking hilarious. That is so funny. Because he's Albanian, and he says, I just want to speak to, as a proud Albanian, I want to speak to these people over there that are doing wrong. And then he starts speaking in Albanian.
The running joke is that nobody knew that Jim Belushi was Albanian. So they find out as everything is happening. And yeah, you're right. I forgot. Do you know why I forgot, Alex? Because unless I missed it, he's uncredited, right? Woody Harrelson?
You might be right. Yeah, you might be right. Well,
because I knew that he was, in the movie. And then as I was watching the order in which people got credited, I kept waiting for the and Woody Harrelson, and it never happened.
Kelly. I knew it was like
yes.
A
unisex.
Sexually ambiguous name. Unisex. There you go. Thank you. Okay, so Woody Harrelson in this movie is kind of the one thing in the movie that I'm kind of like 50-50 about.
Anybody want a beer? Because I could party.
The idea of it is hilarious. So the idea is this Albanian war. Craig T. Nelson ends it, so they try to figure out how to get the upper hand. So they plant this story that there's a soldier who's been left over there and left behind, and they have to think of a way to market it. So it's the shoe. They think of shoe, and this shoe mania, as it were, sweeps the country, and you see that really, I guess, relevant or just kind of, what's a word I'm looking for here? It's
Relatable.
relevant. You can just like see it in practice. You've been able to for the past 10 years now. They just show like a guy working a factory job wearing a shirt that says "Bring him home" and it's like a shoe, and then another guy that has like it says "Fuck Albania" on it, and it's just the easiness in which it is to sway some folks, you know. So they build this big shoe campaign, and when they actually the military gives them the guy, they wanted a real member of the military, and it turns out he's a guy that's in prison, and they unknowingly sign. They take basically ownership of him. They being Dustin Hoffman, Robert De Niro, and Heche. And his crimes are of sexual violence, and he ends up getting himself killed by, just in the middle of nowhere by this, I guess farmer or just store owner, because it's implied he's attempting sexual violence on this guy's daughter. And is it played for laughs, Julio? Because I really, that part,
100%.
yeah, that's.
But it didn't. I don't think that it ever comes close to, or at least me watching it. I guess maybe because I knew where it was all headed. So I don't remember how I felt the first time I watched it, but the entire thing is farcical. So I never felt that the farmer's daughter was in danger. It's all just so ridiculous.
Yeah, no, to me, like my uneasiness at this point just goes back to something we find ourselves discussing quite often, is the readiness and how eager writers were to just fall back on men assaulting women as almost a thing of comedy. We see that in past decades of movies and whatnot. And it's, I honestly, I don't think it's me being like woke, for lack of a better term. I think the older I get, the more I'm like, man, come on. There's got to be another way we can establish this, the same goal.
You want me to quote Peter Capaldi in The Suicide Squad? I'll just go, unclutch your pearls.
But
no, I get it.
Yeah. But the main takeaway is that because nothing comes of it, and this dude just gets his shotgun and shoots Woody Harrelson, the payoff to the scene is very funny, because Dustin Hoffman's running behind the guy with the gun. He goes, "Let me talk to him." And then the gunshot goes off, and Dustin Hoffman looks around the corner. He goes, "Good news, he's not dead." And then another gunshot goes off, and he goes, "Strike that." So, like, in essence, what I would say is, it's just, there's aspects of that I'm like, come on, man, we could have done this another way. But the fact remains, it's so satisfying as an audience member to see their plan fucking blow up in their face, and like all of the manipulation they've done, and how much smarter they think they are than everybody. They could have paused to think this could go wrong in any way. And the fact that it goes so disastrously wrong, that's obviously very satisfying as a viewer.
That's a very interesting thing to say, and I'll get back to that in a minute. But just to finish with Woody Harrelson, my main thought the first time I watched it, and even now as I watched it this last time, was that his character is so broad that it definitely jolts you a little bit out of the movie, because everybody else is just so toned down because they're professionals. And so even Dustin Hoffman, who's the eccentric movie producer, he's still, he's a person. And Woody Harrelson shows up and he's kind of a caricature of this monster. And I mean, it leads to some really big laughs. And it is a black comedy. And so that's why maybe I give it some leeway, because when they're reading his rap sheet and they're like, why was he in prison? And Dustin Hoffman just goes, he raped a nun. I'm like, that's an awful thing to say. But in the context of that, is like, of course, it would be like the worst possible thing that he could have done. And Heche's reaction to it. And then Dustin Hoffman goes, and she's like, please don't tell me that there's a man. So, they kind of like set it up as like they're there with this monster. So, of course, he tries to do a monstrous thing and they stop. He stopped before anything happens. So, I'm trying to figure out why is it that it doesn't bother me, and maybe because it's just such a cartoon. If he was played more naturalistic, then I think that it would be so unsettling that I wouldn't be able to find it funny. But he's a cartoon from the beginning. He's talking about the beans, and he's talking about having to do laundry on Saturdays or whatever. So it's kind of the most cartoonish element, maybe the only cartoonish element of the movie. But now this was something I was going to ask you because I found myself maybe tricked by the movie, enchanted by the movie, to where I constantly forgot what these people were working for, or what they were trying to do. Because in the end, they're protecting a sexual predator.
Yeah.
The whole thing is that the president is being accused of sexual misconduct. And Heche is like, they were not alone for long enough for anything to happen. But basically, he might have assaulted a child, like not a Girl Scout. Was it a Firefly girl?
Yeah. Help me out here, Leo. What is that?
I'm assuming it's the Tamu version of a Girl Scout. Maybe something that they made up. I don't know. Or are Fireflies older versions of Girl Scouts? I have no idea. I don't know.
It says similar to Girl Scouts. Yes. Let me.
Do they sell cookies?
Mr. Fuji will investigate. Give me a moment here. See, yeah, exactly. All this fucking is returning is the show Firefly. Here's the first prompted Google response. Who is the girl on Firefly? Anyway, I'm sorry. Continue.
Well, so he's a bad guy. He's a bad guy. But I found myself so entertained, so charmed even by Robert De Niro, Dustin Hoffman, and then Heche trying to do the thing and for the most part pulling it off. I mean, in fact, they do pull it off by the end, that I was rooting for them. So I don't know if I was satisfied whenever something blew up in their faces. In fact, I was concerned. I was like, oh no, how they're going to fix it now? But it sounds like your experience was not it. Were you actively rooting against them? Were you hoping that they would not pull it off at the end?
I had no, like, I didn't have a side that I was on in this. I just was like, I found it so funny, but it still was just satisfying that, they never considered something could go wrong because they are in their minds, they're always, 10 steps ahead of everything. So the fact that like the last piece of the puzzle that had to fall into place, they're like, oh, fuck. Really screwed this up.
So close and yet so far.
What do you mean?
Well, we were this close.
This is nothing. What are you talking about? This is nothing. This just got big.
Big, it got big. He's dead. He's dead. We killed old Shoe.
Also, if I'm understanding correctly, Fireflies are high school aged Girl Scouts.
Okay. I mean, either way, he's still bad.
No,
but I guess, yeah.
No, yeah. Not to say that there was going to be any scenario where that played off well. I was just genuinely curious because, I don't know much about the Girl Scouts of America. So I was curious what that meant.
Maybe if they were real fireflies, like the insect, then it's okay. Then the media was blowing it out of proportion.
Very strange, yes.
So, the movie, you could say, at least in my case, it kind of tricks you, seduces you into forgetting that the president is a really bad person. And for the sake of the comedy and the sake of everything else, you're like, I kind of hope that they get away with it just because they're so talented and so good at their job and so creative. And I was just like in awe of how they get away with everything. But then I had to write it. I was like, this is the smart version of this move, right? Where you don't really start the war and you just use the resources. I mean, it's fantastical. There were times where I just had to suspend my disbelief completely because I was like, what are the odds that one or more of Kirsten Dunst's friends wouldn't recognize her on that footage that's playing everywhere? Didn't you have that thought?
Yeah. I thought that was going to happen. I thought it was going to like show on TV and someone's like, hey, that's Kirsten.
Yeah. Tracy. It's right there. I mean, but then I would be like, I'm sure De Niro would like explain it away.
When De Niro tells her, it's like, you can't tell anybody about this. She's like, is it a guild thing? Hey, what if I do? Well, some people will take you back to your home and kill you.
Yeah, she's really good there. So they're they're the bad guys, I guess, but they're so talented that they trick me into like going along for the ride. And then you get to the end and it's kind of a sobering reminder that they're really bad people.
Yeah.
Were you, did you see it coming? And then when it happened, were you just kind of rattled by Dustin Hoffman's final fate?
I mean, I knew one of these characters was going to have like, that's the nature of the movie. You go against the grain, you get dealt with. But it made perfect sense that, like you said, after all that, it's just Dustin Hoffman just still wanted the credit. He cites like one of the reviews of his last movie that said like it was a masterpiece or whatever, but it didn't mention him in it. And you can just tell that it's an interesting life. And that's also, it has nothing to do with politics. There has to be so many producers out there, from that bygone era that are like that. Now just, Netflix, pay me. But I actually, in my morbid brain, found something a bit, romantic about the ending of this with the artist that wants credit for his art, and being willing to die for it, even as insane as what his art is. Like, and it also is the picture of, for as smart as these people think they are, just he's that just daft that he thought after all that they were going to put like his name on the end credits and he was going to get like, a parade.
He has that really poignant shot where he's looking out the window at the funeral. It's not a fake funeral, but it's a funeral for a fake character in a way. And he kind of whispers, "This is the best thing I've ever done because it's the most honest."
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, there you go. And the Oscar goes to, at least the nomination goes to. So yeah, I remember being shocked. I mean, I was much younger the first time I watched this, so I definitely did not see it coming. I was like, they were bros. What happened? Because, that scene that you referenced where they're talking, when they're in the limo and they're throwing the shoes out and they have that joke or that moment, about like, oh, well, he brought keys.
The shoes.
Yeah. They're having a good time. They're becoming friends. And then at the end, I mean, obviously, De Niro's not happy that he has to do it, but he makes the call and he just gets him killed. So, like I said, it was just kind of it's a sobering moment at the end, telling you, no, you followed them and they were entertaining, but these people are evil. they're just, and they're ruthless. And that is, I think that's the bigger picture. I don't think, as I was watching, I'm like, you could argue, and maybe if we were doing this on the main feed and we were doing our Contrarians gimmick, my big criticism towards the movie would be that, it's somewhat platforming, encouraging, sponsoring, whatever you want to say, conspiracy theorists, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anybody that thinks that the moon landing was faked or, whatever, this movie's telling them you're right. Because, they have the technology and they have the people that orchestrate this to distract you. And I think that that's being a little too literal with the reading of the movie. But what the bigger picture is that what the movie is arguing is that we are manipulated fairly easily by the media. And that, especially in something that you would think is pretty obvious. Oh, the president gets caught in a compromising situation, so suddenly we start a war with a different country to take the heat off of that. Like, that seems pretty obvious. And yet it happens, and not everybody, people either don't connect the dots or refuse to connect the dots. I mean, it's just happening right now as we record this, right? It's like the Epstein files are out there, and it feels like the current administration has been doing everything to distract from that. And of course, eventually we're going to start a war with somebody. So It's insane. It's insane. And, but this movie is making that point 20 years prior, 30 years prior. And they're all, it's like you said, there's no party in the movie. And that's because I believe that it would happen with either one in control. Whoever's in control eventually, I'm sure we've made this point before, but, the average politician is pretty corrupt. And if they're not corrupt when they start, they end up being corrupt because power corrupts and so on. So it's easy to believe that they would just orchestrate something like that. Or people would orchestrate it for them, give them deniability and, say, no, don't worry, we'll figure something out. So it's when, who is it? Is it Hoffman or De Niro? Somebody calls the entire enterprise politics at its finest. And I'm like, yeah, I guess so. That's just how it works. And then De Niro has his line that he repeats more than once, where he goes like, "It's true because I saw it on TV." And today is like, "It's true because I saw it on TV, or I saw it online, or I saw it on Fox News, I saw it on Newsmax, I saw it on X." It's weird because I think that we're at that point where we might be in the last stretch where you would be able to say that, and we're potentially going to cross over into the complete opposite of like, it's not true because it's AI, or it's not true because it's probably AI. That's so it's kind of weird that we're at that moment where how much longer can you get away with this kind of stuff before the audience becomes completely jaded? Or I guess they just drink so much Kool-Aid that they don't care. What do you have to show them to convince them that this is fake or that this is real? It's weird. This movie, in the 90s is playing with the idea of technology being able to do something amazing, mind-blowing, like using green screen to put Kirsten Dunst in a war zone and replacing a bag of Doritos with a cat. And that is, I think Anne Heche asked how long it's going to take. It's like, 5 hours.
Some sound of screaming. Well, it might be good as ooh-ah sirens.
What the hell is ooh-ah?
Ooh-ah, Anne Frank.
Oh, okay. That's good, yeah.
Find us the Anne Frank sirens.
Ooh, that's chilling.
Not to be the fat guy, but it's Tostitos. I don't know why I found that so funny. They just, because it seemed to be like a clear decision they made to include like that it's Tostitos chips. I just found that so funny.
There's probably a cut scene with Dustin Hoffman arguing what kind of chips. Actually, no, he wouldn't, because it doesn't matter, because those chips are not going to be on the shot.
Yes. Can we get a Calico Cat here?
Dude, that's another Hoffman line.
What's that?
It's when the president wants a white cat, and Hoffman gets frustrated, and he mutters something like, "I hate it when they start meddling."
Yeah, he like whispers that to Dave Koechner. Yeah, dude, that's so good. Yeah, this was really enjoyed this. It like was so farcical is the word you used to describe it, and that I joked that like, man, it's relevant, but like at no point was I like depressed by how much this reflects like the current hellscape that we're in.
I wonder if that's because, well, it has to be because it's just so funny. Because it's not like the movie gives you an uplifting message at the end. It doesn't leave you with any sort of hope. Giving you something like Facing the Crowd, which I think out of the movies that we've done in this series would be the closest as far as tone, or maybe, because Facing the Crowd was also like kind of a black comedy and was talking about media and how it manipulates the public, and this deals in that. But Facing the Crowd has sort of a happy ending. The bad guy, so to speak, gets his comeuppance and so on, that the audience wakes up. This is none of it. Here, the bad guys win. They get away with it, and nobody stands for the little guy. It's just, no, we're just manipulating them this way or that way. It's not like Mr. Incredible, what's his name? Kelly Stone. stands for the people. He's just standing against his opponent. So it's a pretty damning portrayal of politics and politicians and the people behind the scenes all around.
Mm-hmm.
So in that sense, you would think that would be more depressing, but somehow it isn't, just because, I don't know. I maybe it's just that when you're that funny and you're that smart, then you're just not depressing. You're just really entertaining. This movie, I kept writing lines. William H. Macy, his opening, when he sits down, he was like, "I know two things." And the first thing he knows is like, there's no difference between good flan and bad flan. Like, amazing. That's great. And then it's Leary when he's talking about merchandising for Woody Harrelson, for the Schumann character, and he talks about making a deal with McDonald's and Wendy's or some
he names like Burger King. He names like 3 places off.
Yeah, he
the
says
Shoe Burger.
Yeah, the Shoe Burger with the 303 sauce. He says behind enemy lines or anytime. It's so good. So maybe it just becomes more depressing when you if you stop and think about it. You stop laughing and then you just reflect on the fact that, we're all fucked. And it was, if it was easy to manipulate people in the 90s, it's even easier to manipulate them now. And that is maybe the line of the movie, Alex. I don't know if you thought the same thing. After the plane crashes and Heche vents her frustration by grabbing a portable TV and throwing it in the ground, and Hoffman goes, "What did TV ever do to you?" And she says, "It destroyed the electoral process."
Yes. Yeah. Great call out.
She would be throwing smartphones on the ground today. Like, I'm done. Social media fucked it all up. It's a great movie, though. I love it.
It is.
Do you have any Oscars information?
Money. You think I did this for money? I did this for credit.
But you always
For credit.
You always knew you couldn't take the credits.
That's one thing, but I'm not going to stand here and let two dickheads from film school take it.
It was nominated for 2 Academy Awards, Best Actor and Best Screenplay. This would have been the 1998 Academy Awards, which a little ditty called Titanic did some business that year. Best Actor in a Leading Role, Dustin Hoffman was nominated alongside Peter Fonda, Robert Duvall, and Matt Damon. They all lost out to Jack Nicholson for As Good as It Gets. Oh, the big 4 were 2 movies. Picture and director were Titanic, and actor and actress were both As Good as It Gets. Best screenplay based off best adapted screenplay.
Right.
Wag the Dog was nominated alongside The Wings of the Dove, The Sweet Hereafter, Donnie Brasco, old school Contrarians entry there. And they all lost out to LA Confidential.
That's a good win. But I probably, ultimately, as much as I like LA Confidential, and I think it's a great movie and a great script, I would give this one the edge.
I've never seen LA Confidential, so.
Well, pencil it in. Future Contrarians entry. Man, I mean, I don't know. I remember at the time thinking that was cool that Hoffman got a nomination, but not really being too broken up about him not winning. Watching it tonight, he was so delightful. I kept thinking, man, how did he not win? And now that you tell me Nicholson took it, I'm like, yeah, I guess. Nicholson is pretty awesome and As Good as It Gets. Have you seen As Good as It Gets?
I have not. I remember my parents loved that movie. That was like, I've told this before about when you're a little kid and your parents are like, you hear adults talk about adult movies is what, now I know that means porn. But as a kid, I remember just thinking there were some movies that only adults watched.
It's a good one. It was kind of an awards darling. So, yeah, I mean, it was not on the cards. And Hoffman, I mean, I'm not going to say, oh, well, Nicholson needed the Oscar more than Hoffman. They're both pretty celebrated actors. I think that you could make the argument that if anybody needed the Oscar, it was Peter Fonda. But that's fine. I mean, I guess in the end, Hoffman should be happy that he can just look back and say, oh, I had that movie. Late in my career, I had Wag the Dog, and I was there toe-to-toe with DeNiro and then Heche, and, we did great. So, Oscars aside, it's time for the Contrarians to rate Wag the Dog. And I think that it's been pretty clear by my enthusiasm throughout this entire conversation. This is 5 stars for me, Alex.
Nice.
I don't know if it was 5 stars the first time I watched it, but today, like I say with many of our FIRF conversations, like this movie is enhanced by the moment we live in today. And watching Robert De Niro and Heche and Dustin Hoffman create a fake war to distract from a sex scandal, from a presidential sex scandal, as we're sitting here with a real war that, for all intents and purposes, seems to have been launched just to protect or distract from another sex scandal involving our current president. I mean, that is just, how do you not give it 5 stars when they pull it off this well? So how about you? What's your score?
Yeah, this gets an A. I don't know if it's quite in the A+ 5-star range, but this movie's fantastic. I laughed a lot and I was engaged the entire time. So I agree with what you've said. And yeah, it's a fitting time to watch it and discuss it as well. But even if we were in some sort of utopia right now, I still would have really enjoyed this movie and found it fascinating. And like I said, the comedy is the big thing. It's just so funny.
It walks the line. I guess that would be my final point, and I kind of touched on it before, but just to reiterate, like it walks the line between making an argument. Like the movie is not about conspiracy theorists, but I could see people maybe taking it and running with that. And I wonder if there's an iteration of this movie made today that is just more about the fact that, oh, well, nothing is real. And if that was the case, I think that that's when you get into tricky territory, because I don't think that's helpful. When you get to the point where you have people second guessing every little thing and going down rabbit holes of improbable things, that ends up being a problem. Perhaps, that's just misinformation, a different kind of misinformation. But this is I think this invites you to just take a step back and look at, the bigger picture. And I think the bigger picture sometimes is just like pretty obvious. It's like, oh, this happened. It's a big deal. Suddenly something else happens that distracts you from it. Doesn't look suspicious.
Look at that. That is a complete fucking fraud, and it looks 100% real.
5 stars, an A, resounding success from Wag the Dog. I will call it, like I said on my note, this is how smart people do it. And the way that we're seeing it play out in real life is how really dumb but powerful people do it. I think I saw a quote, actually, and we can close with this. So I forgot to bring it up earlier. Its Rotten Tomatoes score is 86% on the tomato meter, 78 critic reviews, 76% on the popcorn meter, 25,000 plus reviews. Smart, well-acted, and uncomfortably prescient political satire from director Barry Levinson and an all-star cast. And the quote that I was thinking of is, once you start to exhibit healthy skepticism towards the government's actions and motives, they start to seem less like an Orwellian superstate as more like a collection of cocky crooks just one step ahead of the good guys. And that is, like, a collection of cocky crooks seems actually kind of a positive way of describing, how I feel about the current administration. I'll be harsher than that. But still, just the idea that it's just like common criminals that kind of like stumbled back asswards into having this much power, and now it's just a matter of time before they completely fuck it up. So that's what I'm hoping happens. Also, not to get into it, but there's a lot of references to Network, which is another great movie about the power
I've never
of media.
seen that. Yeah,
Dude, it's really good.
Yeah,
it's been a while since I watched it, so I couldn't like draw the parallels directly. There's like positive quotes saying, "Oh, this is the successful heir to Network," and negative quotes saying like, "Oh, this is no Network." but they play in the same sandbox, so I would recommend watching Network if you like Wag the Dog. But that's it, Alex. As we record this, as we wind down this recording, I gotta tell you, I didn't think about what our next one is. I was so excited about doing Wag the Dog now that I didn't think what the next one is. But the next one should be an immigrant story. So TBA, just stay tuned. Check our Instagram, check our social media. We will let you know what the next installment number 10 of FIRF is. But until then, thank you all for listening. Thank you to Corey and Zoe for all the behind the scenes stuff. Thank you to Jordan Cooper for our intro and outro. You can check his website at jordancoopermusic.com. You can check his They Might Be Giants podcast, Don't Let's Start. And of course, you can check his band, Troubles Afoot, on Bandcamp. Thank you, Jordan. Thank you, all of you listeners, again, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye.
Thanks, y'all. Take care.